Hey, you're listening to episode 39 of the TA Pedals podcast. I'm Tristan.
And I'm Stephon.
Wow, buddy. It has been a very, very long time since we've done a podcast.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a couple months, huh?
I think yeah. But even then, the last one we did, I didn't post because I was like, oh, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The podcast is cool. I'm here just to, support, our business, but, it's not my main priority. So it's not like I missed it or anything.
I definitely missed it. I've always said that, it's good to sit down and just be able to talk to someone for an hour uninterrupted.
Yeah.
And, in the past we've always talked about like our business and it growing and, new stuff. And I don't know. I don't think I want to go that direction anymore. I just want to talk about like cool stuff again. How we used to talk about technology and aliens and all this crazy stuff. That I wanted to go back to that. So
yes,
I want to head that direction.
I'm 100% down for that. That's exactly the kind of stuff that I want to talk about.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's do that instead. I don't know. While I do appreciate, the fact that we could have possibly helped someone on their path by sharing the things that we were going with and, our struggles as a growing business. I don't feel like that's the most entertaining thing. And I know that if I were going to listen to a podcast, too much of that would instantly, well, maybe not instantly, but it would get old quick. It would get old really quick. So
yeah, for the average, listener, hearing the same thing over and over again kind of gets boring after a while.
For sure. And I mean, to be fair, the episodes were getting stagnant because we were kind of in a weird place where we were being pulled a bunch of different directions and our focus was kind of, split many different ways. And we just had a lot going on. And so I think both of us, without really even talking about it, just knew it was time to take a break from the podcast until we had more cool stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And we're back.
Yep. Yeah, the whole, I feel like when we're doing a podcast, like what we do as a business doesn't really fit a podcast vibe. You know what I mean? Because people can find out what we're doing by, following us on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. Like they can clearly see what we're doing. So I think the podcast should be reserved for more what we think is interesting, outside of that.
Right. I completely agree. So with that being said, what's interesting? What's going on?
Well, lots of things are interesting. Something that I've been pretty interested in lately, and I haven't done a lot of dabble into it or anything like that, but there's a lot of stuff going around suggesting that there was ancient civilization or where there was a people lived or some species lived a long time ago and they got really advanced and then something happened, wiped them all out, and we started fresh. I don't know how much you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, but he constantly not at all.
Okay, well, I could show you a few episodes where they specifically talk about that for 3 hours. And that extinction event that you're referring to, they I think are calling the Younger Dryas Impact, and it was a giant meteor, and I
mean the moon,
Huh?
The moon. How did the moon get there? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If something hit the Earth and damaged it, and then broke away from the Earth and then started orbiting the Earth, that's pretty good explanation of how we got a moon.
Yeah. I think that they're saying that this meteor is the one that impacted. Man, maybe I shouldn't talk about this because I don't know what I'm talking about. Double, someone out there double check me. I think that they said that it was the meteor that impacted the Yucatan Peninsula, and that's why there's a giant crater there. But I also might be mixing that up because I think that that's the one that made the dinosaurs go extinct, and I don't think they're the same thing.
Yeah, I think that the one that the one that they suggest that the dinosaurs went extinct was big enough to, set flame to the whole earth and kill everything in it, but I don't know if it's big enough to create a moon.
Yeah, right. I don't think that's how our moon formed. But I do think
the moon definitely definitely is a big mystery of how it got there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, speaking of like ancient civilizations and stuff, some of the technology that they think that they could have possibly had is like sound-based technology, which is kind of strange to think about because they say that maybe they used some sort of machine that could vibrate the air or materials in such a way that they would levitate. And they say that, maybe that's how they got those giant stones from the quarry that was, hundreds of miles away to Egypt and used those to build the pyramids. And maybe that's how they transported them, was like levitation.
I mean, it makes sense. I don't know exactly how the science works behind that, but there has been lots of theories of like how that happened, and they they've discovered at least that the pyramids were built long before the Egyptians resided in that area. So who made them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so what you just said is actually kind of a weird point of contention, and people get upset about it, and it's so weird because I think people know what people mean by it. But what's funny is like, you said the pyramids were definitely built before the Egyptians were there.
Yeah.
But whoever was living there that built them were Egyptians because they lived in Egypt.
Yeah, but it wasn't. But could it be called Egypt before someone named it Egypt? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I think so because it's still that same area. So we're referring to the same group of people. You know what I mean? So if back then you wouldn't call them Egyptians, of course, but it's just funny because I think from what I understand, people have been getting upset because it's like not you, but it's like people who say that phrase are saying that the people who were there before were not Egyptians, even though they lived in the area of that we call Egypt. And it's like, that's a silly thing to get upset about. But I mean, I get it. Everyone knows what people mean. And the point is, the pyramids, have been there for, I think, much longer than people used to estimate. But there's so much pushback from mainstream archaeology that it's hard to make any new discoveries.
Well, yeah, because someone discovered something and someone theorized something, and anytime you go against it, they're gonna battle against you over their own, what they've already have set in stone, pretty much.
Yeah, because I mean, if you discredit or if you disprove something that they have put a lot of work into, maybe even invested their whole lives, it kind of discredits them and makes their life's work meaningless. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But at the same time, in the pursuit of truth and science, when new evidence is given, you have to, analyze it and accept it and say, does this make sense more than the current theory? And if it does, or if there's, very, very clear conflicting evidence that goes against the old theory, it's time to let it go.
Yeah.
But people are, set in their ways, and I get it. They've
Yeah.
developed this whole narrative, this whole story for all of human history. And if
Mm-hmm.
something is inaccurate, the whole story kind of falls apart. Not the whole story, but you get what I mean. Like,
Yeah. I
everything
mean,
it's built upon.
it's their life. Like how do you tell someone that their life was meaningless? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, when you start to really believe something, it's really hard for certain people to change their mind, especially when their career was built on it. So, I mean, I understand, but there shouldn't be this like weird control over what research is suppressed and what's pushed through as truth. It should just be evidence versus things that you can disprove and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you also see the where they are that area where they're trying to say that that's where Atlantis was whenever it was a thriving city?
I haven't seen the area, but I know that they have been talking about that for a while, and it's like concentric circles, and I guess they've said that like when it was above land, maybe it was subject to flooding, and so they built like these big walls to protect the city.
Yeah.
Or something. So yeah, I vaguely know what you're talking about. I haven't seen the area. I don't
Well,
really even know where it is.
it's I don't know exactly what country it's in, but it's like in the desert, like that that big desert near Afghanistan or something like that. I'd say. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Hey,
it's like.
oh, go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I'm not sure if that's the exact desert or not, but it's somewhere in that general area. There's like a big desert, and somewhere like right in the middle of the desert, there's like this little kind of hollowed out area, and there's like these little circular grooves that they get, like, I would say rings. They get like smaller and smaller as you get to the center, and they're theorizing that that's the possible location of where the Atlantis city was.
All I was gonna say a second ago was
Yeah.
that this podcast actually marks something eventful that we might need to address because it's really cool.
Okay.
This podcast is the first remote podcast that we've ever done.
Oh yeah.
So Stephon lives about 45 minutes away from me. And so every podcast, 1 through 39 or 38, I can't remember what podcast number this is. I think 30.
I think he said it was 39.
Yeah, so 1 through 38. Man, I'm losing
Yeah.
it. 1 through 38, Stephon had to be at my house to do it. Well, we finally remedied that situation and got Stephon a setup and figured out a way to do this remotely. And so I'm actually sitting in front of my computer now. So any questions that we have, like, for example, where is Atlantis or where do they think Atlantis was, I can actually just Google it because I'm sitting right here anyway.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think about because we haven't had, that opportunity really. We used to have to
Yeah.
get on our phones and then we both be, having to be thinking. It was hard to multitask, I guess. But
Yeah.
now we can do it. So with that being said, I did Google it. I Googled where is Atlantis.
Yeah.
And it says researchers had previously proposed that Atlantis was located on the Greek island of Santorini, the Italian island of Sardinia, or Cyprus. It says, however, recent research has shown that the city may be found between Spain and Morocco waters in Cadiz.
Well, what about the desert theory?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering too. Let's Google that. Why don't we? What desert do archaeologists think Atlantis is in.
That's a long thing there.
I know, right? The famed lost city of Atlantis may have been found in a rather unlikely place, the Sahara Desert. So,
Yeah.
I think
That
the Sahara,
big giant, a big giant desert, Sahara Desert. Yeah.
yeah, the giant one that
Isn't
who knows
is
what's
it?
out there.
But like where? But where exactly is the Sahara Desert? Is that in Africa or is it in the Middle East?
No, it's in Africa. It's like
Okay.
northern Africa, like
Okay. So close to Egypt.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know how if you turn Africa on its side, like if you turn it 90 degrees counterclockwise, it kind of looks like a unicorn or a rhino.
Or genital.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
if Africa was a rhino, if you rotated it 90 degrees counterclockwise and it looked like a rhino, I would say the Sahara Desert would be in the neck. It's in the Sahara Desert's in the neck of the rhino.
Okay.
It's got that horn. It can't be a unicorn because
Yeah.
the horn's too short. But whatever. Anyway, yeah, it's like northern Africa.
Okay.
Western Africa, kind of.
Yeah.
Central.
So maybe. So here's a theory. Okay, this is just a theory. All right, no one needs to like build upon this theory. No one needs to research it or anything. What if the pyramids were the power plants to power the Atlantis city, since they're actually not that far away?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that could be a thing.
Yeah, it's not though. But it's funny to think about.
Yeah, I really like when you watch all those like Discovery Channel shows about ancient Egypt, and it shows like the pyramids like all shiny because I guess the limestone used to be like smooth and white, and so it shows this like really smooth giant pyramid shape, and then it shoots a blue laser out of the top.
Yeah.
I love that because I'm just like,
I love the guy that's always on those like mystery Discovery Channel shows, and he looks like a crazy person. He's got like that really he's got like Albert Einstein hair.
yeah. His name is Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Oh my lord.
And I love him.
He's the most enthusiastic guy on that whole show, for sure.
He really honestly makes it, I don't think that show would have been nearly as popular without him.
Yeah.
But man, he literally attributes every single thing to aliens. I'm like,
yeah.
I get it. It's called Ancient Aliens,
Yeah.
but I would feel more convinced if he was more realistic about certain things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm less likely to believe everything he's saying when everything is attributed to aliens. It can't all be aliens. Or can
No, it can't. But some things can be.
Yeah.
There are some unexplainable things.
Have you heard of that secret government program using holograms?
You'll have to be a little bit more specific.
Okay, so
I'm more of a situational kind of person, not a general thing.
Okay, well, let me remember what this is called. Project Bluebeam. Do you know what Project Bluebeam is?
Yeah. No.
Okay, so this says that it's false, that this does not exist. Okay, just to be clear with everyone, officially, Project Bluebeam does not exist.
Yeah.
But Project Bluebeam essentially was this conspiracy theory that the government had 3D hologram projection technology that they could put in the sky or elsewhere, I'm sure, but normally Project Bluebeam is referring to things seen in the sky, and it would be a high-resolution 3D hologram where the projections would be unable to be detected, so you would just see the object, whatever they were projecting. You wouldn't see like the light, how you see from a projector.
Yeah.
And people say that the government has been using this to create these UFO sightings, essentially, that they're behind all of the sightings that have been more frequent over the last few years, and that the governments of the world were going to unite under Project Bluebeam, and they were going to fake an alien invasion. Or another popular theory is that they were going to fake the second coming of Christ.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, and that they were going to unite everyone under a new world order.
I mean, the idea, like, the goal is in the right place, but I don't know if it's necessarily the right way to do it.
Yeah, well, I've always said that, there's, in my opinion, there's really only one way to unite the world as one, and that has to be some sort of existential threat that threatens all of humanity.
Yeah.
And I mean, aliens would definitely fit that. So, I wouldn't put it past the governments of the world to do something like that.
Man, can you imagine if we did have an actual alien invasion? Man, we wouldn't stand a chance.
Oh, well, yeah, probably not.
We can't agree on it, like, as occupants of the planet Earth. Like, no one can agree on anything long enough to decide what the right steps would be to take to, deal with that situation.
Right. Yeah.
Like, everyone's got their own opinions, and everyone's so, like, just set in how they do things, and, like, you can't, like, no one can agree on anything. It's a sad thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's just so many cultural differences around the world. It's and each country has its own history, some of them being extremely bleak, and so it's hard for everyone to get along, and that's kind of what made me immediately dismiss Project Bluebeam, because I was like, man, we can't even get along about the simplest things.
Yeah.
Like the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. Not to get into that, but just saying, like,
please don't.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. I don't want to get political on this podcast whatsoever. But my point is that, even those countries having such a similar, history and similar culture, they're in conflict with each other, and it's, because of the leaders. And so how would you unite the entire world, when we're all so different? We're also very much the same, but we're very different as well, culturally speaking. And so,
we're the same physically, but we're very different in the way we think.
Well, yeah, that and the way that we're ruled and our, senses of right and wrong and, things like that as well.
But if you look at the basic, like the basic structure of what's right and wrong. We all pretty much have the same morals.
Yeah, absolutely. Because most people want the same things. You just
But
don't
why
want to
can't
be
we
hungry.
just build upon that? I don't understand why we can't just be like, hey, we all agree, like, hey, this is wrong, that's wrong. Now let's all agree on the littler things.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. But unfortunately, there's people in power with agendas. So,
yeah.
And when those agendas come in conflict, well,
I'd like to see a world where there's no more problems, and like you wake up and you do your morning routine and you go to work at the place that you would work, and you don't have to worry about money. You just have to worry about, doing your job, coming home, feeding your family, going to sleep, and waking up and doing the same thing next day.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Money has more power over anything in this world than anything else does.
Yeah. Money really sucks, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing to, essentially be able to trade the efforts of your labor.
Yeah.
And, I don't think that anyone is entitled to the product of anyone else's labor, but I think that money is a pretty crude and manipulatable vehicle to trade that labor or products of labor. It sucks. Because, when you think about, just inflation and, how the Federal Reserve can just print off money. Say that your grandma had saved, $50,000 back in the 70s or 80s to retire on, and then we get into conflict and inflation happens and wages go up and, whatever, and it devalues the money. So then your grandma has nothing.
Yeah.
Like, even just that little thing is so important. And if we weren't trading, with money, but then again, I can't think of anything that's better than money. Like, as far as being able to trade resources and stuff. So what do I know?
Well, that's the thing is that that's what my perfect world, we wouldn't have to worry about that. Like you have a job to do, and that job is determined by, the skills that you've gathered growing up or whatever. Like maybe you went to school to do a specific job, and that's the job you're going to do for the rest of your life. And that specific job is there for you whenever, you become of age to do it, and you go to that job and all your meals are provided for you. All your housing is provided for you. All your medical is provided for you. Everything that you need to survive is provided for you. And all you have to do is go do the job that you wanted to do and you were trained to do.
So I know you said in a perfect world, so I'm literally just playing devil's advocate, but who owns the company?
There's no companies.
Like who owns the job?
We're talking about
who pays.
Well, there's no company, there's no job, there's no money. There's just a task that needs to be done to contribute to all of society. Like maybe it's farming, or maybe it's engineering.
Who owns the farm?
What do you mean, who runs the farm?
Who owns the farm?
No one owns the farm.
Someone has to own the farm.
No, there's just a farm site. You go out and you plant your stuff and you pick your stuff, or you raise cattle, or whatever you do, and like everyone has a specific task that they do. And it's kind of like if you think about like a communal situation, but globally, like everyone has their own living quarters, and the food is provided to them, but everyone has a specific task that they have to accomplish that day in order to contribute to that global communal situation.
Right. And communal.
It's the only thing I could think of to compare to what I'm trying to
I know,
talk
but
about.
that's communism, buddy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, then why do we have not? I mean, there's like little communities all over the United States where like people they like get tired of living the way they live and they go out, they take their family out there and they just live on this community area where they just take care of themselves and the land.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I mean, at the end of the day, someone seizes control of those goods and the products of those people's labor and redistributes them, and that is the issue with a communal situation. Is usually there's someone in charge, and in communism that is the government, and the government inevitably becomes corrupt, and that's the issue.
Yeah, I think we just need like a zombie apocalypse to happen and everything will be fine.
If say that the world was going to end, like for sure.
Yeah.
And let's say that we had to choose how things were going to go down. I would probably pick aliens, but a close second would be zombies. With zombies, I feel like there would be much more suffering, though.
Are we talking about like the world ending indefinitely, or like killing out the majority of the population?
I'm talking indefinitely. The human population is eradicated.
So, like, no matter what, all life on Earth is going to be gone.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I would definitely prefer some catastrophic event that kills everyone instantly.
Yeah.
I'd rather just rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with all at once than just, draw it out for however long.
Yeah, I think that aliens would probably be able to, use some sort of laser beam for whoever they caught, and just make them explode. That would be cool.
Or they can just like Death Star us and blow up the whole dang planet.
Right, but if they were the type of aliens that were trying to harvest our resources, if they were those kinds of aliens and weren't going to blow up the planet, my point is that I feel like the way that aliens would dispose of humans would be less gruesome and people would suffer less than if they were to be eaten alive by a zombie. I would hope.
For sure. But at the end of the day, if you're going to die, you might as well make it quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that zombies could be fun if they were the kind of zombies that couldn't run.
Yeah.
If there's running zombies, I don't want it. I don't want that to happen.
Classic zombie rather than World War Z zombie.
Yes. If they're like superhuman, super fast zombies, I don't want any part of that.
I think here's the thing though, is in a zombie situation, there is always going to be, the majority of people are probably going to die first off, but there's always going to be groups of people that survive through that. There's, no matter what situation you're in, there's we're talking classical zombie situation. Anytime there's a classical zombie situation, there's always going to be a chance of survival.
Always a chance.
Yeah. And if that's the case, I would prefer zombies because, I can find a way to survive and live out the rest of my days in peace to the extent of fighting off zombies,
Yeah.
But,
I think that I would prefer that too, honestly, but here's the thing. Okay, here's how I think about things, and this is very silly, but it's true. I wouldn't want to live being miserable, okay? So probably some of the first things that would happen with a zombie apocalypse would be, power systems go out and no one has electricity anymore, after a while. And so that would be no air conditioning. And I live in Oklahoma, and it gets very hot, and it makes me really mad. It makes me miserable. And so the first thing I would do if there was a zombie apocalypse and I had the intention of trying to survive as long as possible, I would get in a car and I would drive as far north as I possibly could. That way I can, like you said, live in peace, because that would be pretty nice, actually. Just get away from technology, get away from, having to have a job, like a normal job, and just survive. But I want to be cool. I want to be cooled off. I want it to be a good 60 year round.
Yeah. Not only that, but the North is a very viable option to go when in a situation like that, because the North is going to be less populated, so you have a better chance of surviving without the worry of zombies coming around.
Yeah.
So, and plus you got to think about, like, there's elk up there, deer up there. Mm-hmm. There's very large animals up there that would feed you for a long time. If you could figure out a way to sustain that, like if you if you made a bunch of beef jerky out of a large animal, you could easily have enough meat to last you for a whole year. So
yeah, I would definitely be heading to Montana.
Yeah, I'd go even farther. I'd probably
That's where I would go
into Canada, like into the provinces that border Canada. The ones more northern than those are the ones that I would go to.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, I would go probably to Montana or up around that area, like probably close to the Canadian border.
Yeah.
Try to get somewhere isolated as much as possible. But I don't know, man. That's such a sketchy situation. I hope we don't ever have to actually go through that. Yeah. I would die probably pretty quick.
Well, I think you're pretty secluded, so you could probably wait it out for, like, you could probably wait out the initial attack, I would say. Like all the major cities are going to be overrun pretty quickly, and then after that it's just going to be like a matter of traveling without getting caught.
Yeah, and I mean I would be worried about supplies and gas and stuff like that. That would be that would be one reason that I would very much consider leaving as soon as possible, because I could still probably go get gas and then try to get out.
Yeah.
Whereas afterwards, if I let everything settle down, people who took advantage of that early opportunity would have probably used up a lot of the resources, so I'd be scavenging.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean,
it's not a bad idea. Or I mean, you live near horses. You could easily just, go to, an area where you've seen horses before and just jump on the back of one and ride it all the way up to where you need to go.
There's a park that's not even half a mile from my house, and there's 2 horses at the back of the park.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
backup plans.
I'd figure something out.
Yeah. And not to mention, mopeds and motorcycles are better on gas, and they're easily escapable.
That's true.
Just got to learn how to ride one.
That's what I was thinking about the horse.
Yeah. I've rode a motorcycle before, but I'm not great at it. So there'd definitely be a little bit of a learning curve.
You'd have to learn quick.
Yeah. Pretty damn quick.
Is that it for this episode? Do you want to call it?
I don't know how to gauge how long this episode has gone.
We are at 45 minutes officially.
45. How do you gauge that?
At the top of my recording software, I have it set to, instead of tracking beats, it's tracking time.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, I'm good.
All right. Yeah, I think that's it for me today. I'm going to go do some laundry and some other housework, and
yeah.
That's it.
Oh,
All right. Well, thank y'all for listening to the first ever remote TA Pedals podcast.
Yeah.
We'll do another one soon, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.